This game's in the refrigerator, man. Oh, they can't do the Sisters of Mercy. Magic with the ball. 2 seconds to go. Hook shot scores. Lakers up 107-106. Boston with the timeout. Today, I'd like to highlight the history and the dominance of the Showtime era of the Los Angeles Lakers. So we may think of the Showtime era of the LA Lakers as being the 1980s decade. However, they all started out back in the late 1970s. In 1975, the Lakers acquired Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was already an established player. He was already an NBA champion for the Milwaukee Bucks. That was back in 1970. And then the Lakers, they decided to add more key players like Norm Nixon, Jamal Wilkes, and Michael Cooper in the process. But the main event was the 1979 NBA draft. And as you can see here, this is their #1 pick, Magic Johnson. And that was their key player who they signed for two years. And during the 1980 season, the Lakers have improved their team so much, and their players have made strides for themselves. They made their names for themselves, and their two contributing factors were Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as pictured right here. They dominate the 1980 regular season, and they get the 1 seed in the playoffs, and they ultimately go into the finals, and they face the Philadelphia 76ers during the process. However, during the Game 6, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was injured, so Magic Johnson had to play all the positions, all 5 of them, from center to point guard, and it paid off as they won the championship. The team remained strong during 1981, however, they failed to defend the title, and they lost to Houston Rockets in the first round. But other than that, they continued their improvement, and they continued to dominate the NBA in the 1982 season after hiring coach Pat Riley, and it helped because the team won the 1982 NBA championship, defeating Philadelphia once again. After that season, the Lakers would select James Worthy, pictured right here, from the draft, and it would be a help for them in the future years. Unfortunately, it wouldn't help in the first year because the Philadelphia 76ers acquired a really good player named Moses Malone, and they'd end up losing the Lakers would end up losing the 1983 NBA championship to Philadelphia, in contrast to the previous years. James Worthy would be one of the contributing factors to the team, and it would help them to remain championship contenders during the 1980s in the coming years. Magic and Kareem would continue to be the main key players in the team, and this is when they would start their rivalry with Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. There's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Robert Parrish. The Lakers would be really strong in 1984, and they would make the finals. However, they would struggle against Boston, but then they still pushed it to 7 games. They eventually lose to Boston, and Magic Johnson felt that it could have been the championship they should have won. However, they would rebound in 1985 and ultimately win the championship in 6 games against their rival, the Boston Celtics. At this time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is named Finals MVP, unlike the other two seasons where they won the championship, because Magic Johnson was named MVP. In 1986, the Lakers would be in the 1 seed in the playoffs again. However, they would lose to Houston. But then in 1987, they would rebound and win the championship, defeating their own rivals again, the Boston Celtics. After dominating the 1987 season and winning the championship, Coach Pat Riley was so impressed that he promised the team that they would repeat as NBA champions for the 1988 season. Eventually, he'd back up his words, saying that they would win back-to-back, and he would back it up, and they get the top seed in the Western Conference again, making the playoffs, even though it was a struggle, and they make the NBA Finals again, facing the Detroit Pistons. They would play Detroit in the finals, and they would struggle. They would lose the first 3 games, but however they'd win the next 2 games, forcing a Game 7 eventually, and the Pistons would have the lead for Game 7. However, the Lakers showed great heart and courage, and they fought during the whole game, and eventually would win the game and ultimately the championship. after this season, Pat Riley wanted to get a three-peat. However, it would become a struggle for them because the Lakers would have some injuries, especially during the playoffs. Although they still got the 1 seed, and then they were able to sweep through the first three series of the playoffs. But then the Lakers would struggle in the finals because of key injuries from Byron Scott and Magic Johnson and their key players, and they would eventually get swept by Detroit in the finals. So after that season, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar announces his retirement, but however, the Lakers get another player from the draft named Vlade Divac. He would be drafted and be their starting center for the team in 1989-1990 season. It would be a big help for them as they would get the top seed in the West. They would also get the top seed in the NBA, and Magic Johnson would be named the season MVP. However, things didn't go well for them in the playoffs because the Lakers would make the second round. However, they would lose to the Phoenix Suns in the process. And due to burnout, Coach Pat Riley decides to resign after the season and is replaced by Mike Dunleavy. Even though that situation occurred, the Lakers would still remain strong in 1991, and they would still contend to be in the NBA final. They would still contend for an NBA championship. They would make the NBA finals in '91, but would ultimately lose to Chicago, even though they won the first game. So after that season, Magic Johnson makes a shock announcement. Magic Johnson makes a shock announcement saying that he has the HIV virus and he will retire playing from basketball. And after that announcement, everybody in the NBA would be shocked. However, he would eventually come back, but it didn't make any difference. But after his announcement of his HIV and AIDS virus, that would be the end of Showtime. And here's a clip from 1987. Here's one of the big moments against Boston. On that note, that goes to show why the Lakers are dominant. We may think of the Lakers as seeing Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and other superstars, but Magic Johnson, Kareem, in the Showtime era was one of the greatest in NBA history.
Victoria, what did you think?
I liked your story. I just can't remember a lot of the information in between. Maybe it's because I'm a girl and I don't know basketball, but I liked the pictures and how I could see who you were talking about. The video was cool. I like the video. Other than that, I think it was maybe if you could set up the video a better way and then come back and finish, so we know you're done. But it was really good.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, hang on just a second here. There we go. All right, I like the attention device. I think you need a little bit more of a transition to your purpose statement so that people get a sense of where you're headed with this. I also didn't really see much of a preview at the beginning of the speech. I can just tell that it's a review of that time period, but I don't know if you've got it broken into any component parts, if you're going to talk about the championships versus the non-championship seasons, if it's going to focus around particular players, if you've got it broken into sections of time. As it turns out, it just seems like it's a straight chronology of the time period from 1979 to about 1991, so that 12-year time period that's going on there. And there's nothing that stands out as being easy to recall, although I think that there are probably some simple things to do. For example, talking about the first couple of championships and grouping those together, then talking about the series against the Celtics, the 3 championship games that they played there, and then their final repeat, championship situation. That probably would have been maybe an easy way to organize the speech and say, I'm going to focus on the 5 championships that the Lakers won in this time period. We'll start, with the first one, and then talk about, even though they were expected to defend the next season, then they had the problem, and then they had a season where they were, or several seasons in a row where they faced the Celtics almost back to back, in, I think it was 4 seasons, not 3, that they were over. I think there was an intervening season at one point. It's like 84, 85, and 87 or something like that.
There was also 86 where the Lakers didn't make the finals.
Yeah. So, but they did face each other in the finals 3 times in that time period, in a short period of time. So that would have been a way to group it a little bit more so that it doesn't all just feel like it's, and then this happened, 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 and then this happened. It's like I said, it's a chronology, and you hit important points, but there's no structure, there's no, for example, the introduction of the particular players, that seemed to me like it would be what you were kind of shooting for at the beginning of the speech, that this is the place where the Lakers were built, the acquisition of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. And then, when James Worthy comes in. And then it sounds like that's only 2 parts then. So I'm not sure if there is an additional structure there or not. So like I said, I think organizationally, although it's chronological in nature, it's not very distinct because the events just kind of run together through that time period. There are a couple of places where you tell some interesting stories and you've got some side anecdotes that are being presented. I think you always want to give us a source citation for information that you've got. It's history, so I don't think there's much doubt about the accuracy of what you've got, but that, for instance, that the team came back in the finals against Detroit, that seemed like it was a pretty important thing, and the description about how they were overcome, being down, and it's down the last game, that sort of thing. That sounds like it's something that you, like a sports writer wrote, and you need to attribute those kinds of things. And I didn't hear a source citation in the presentation at all, and that's problematic. You need to be making sure that you cite your sources. The visuals, the images are nice and large. The pictures that you have of the team when they're playing or on the bench, those are perfectly fine. Those are good. The video clip, it's a little tough to kind of integrate into the speech, and this would be one of those things where if you got a chance to practice and do some logistics a little bit earlier, you might have figured out, well, I could just get somebody to play it for me, and then you wouldn't have to step aside, and then you could keep talking. But the problem is that as soon as you realize that you need to go launch it, you stop talking, you walk over there, you go through this mechanical process, and we're just sitting here in silence, and then you play your video, and then it's like the same thing again at the end of the video, and then you walk over, and then the speech is done, and I don't think anybody knew that the speech was done. So that's partially the way that you're delivering the material. You've got to work on that and practice that. And the logistics also contribute to that. Okay, thank you.